That time of the year again. It's almost Christmas. Normally people are happy about it. Excited. You're probably hanging up Christmas tree lights. Or whatever you do. Me? I used to be just like you. I enjoyed Christmas. That was until the incident. Of course, my family consoles me, always talking about how it's not my fault. It's not my fault Dad died. And I tell them I know. But that doesn't mean I could just let it go. It's not the truth. It's not the matter. It's Aaron. My brother. My dead brother. He died on Christmas Eve. No one really knows what happened to him, but I know what happened to him. My dad died in a car accident. People think it was just a freak accident. Ice on the road. It's funny. I told them the truth. I witnessed everything. And they don't believe me. They think I'm making it up. No. I'm not. But I guess maybe if I tell you guys the story, maybe you'll believe me. Maybe you'll understand. Maybe. It all started last year. Me and my brother were just playing Call of Duty. Of course, we really kind of heard about leaks for Modern Warfare 2. We didn't care. We just stick to our usual Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. We always get on together. We both had PS4s. We always kicked ass, dropping nukes every single game. And of course, obviously messing with the little children when they are, you know, doing their thing, calling us hackers. Your typical COD lobby. You know, there's a creature named Krampus. They say he's like the anti-Santa of sorts. Apparently, while Santa gives out gifts to the good kids, Krampus takes children in his little sack, carries them off and punishes them. That's how my grandma described it. And of course, naturally, my father would get really angry. Mainly because it kept us up all night. No matter how many times we were told it wasn't real, it was still scary. We were definitely on our best behavior after that. After all, we didn't want some goat man coming around and taking us away, doing who knows what he did, but I would imagine it was something really horrible. Well, that was until my 13th birthday, which is November 27th. Once we were old enough, we were told that none of it was real. So, it was still a deep, provoking thought. Nowadays, and even then, I really am into horror. I still remember the time. Me and Aaron were walking through the snow to get back home from school, when we saw a homeless old man. We felt bad for him, so we did what naturally came to mind. We gave him money, a $5 bill. Each of us gave him a $5 bill. This man was blind. Of course, we always tried talking to him. I believe his name was Johnson. We've always liked to chat with people. We liked chatting with him. He was a very nice old man. But, of course, he'd always have his little dog next to him. I don't remember the breed of the dog. But a dog nonetheless. It was a service dog. The kind of dog that that blind people or whatever usually have to help them see and move around, seeing as they can't see themselves. Usually we talk about small talk. That was when he told us a story. He hated Christmas. And he said apparently he hates Christmas because it was like 20 years ago. He had a brother, a twin brother actually, named Johnny. Well, of course, we tried asking him for years on end, throughout the years, what happened to him. He would just shake his head and tell you not to worry about it. The man was already gone through enough, seeming that he was a military veteran back in his day. So we didn't want to upset him anymore, so we obeyed his wishes. It was a typical stormy, well, snowstorm anyway. We were just walking. Sometimes we even invited him over for dinner, seeing as he was homeless and we didn't want to leave him out there in the cold. We mainly slept in the basement. I know it sounds kind of creepy, but we actually made a nice little home for him, because all the homeless shelters were full. And trust me when I say we had quite a lot of homeless people around that time of year, 2019. He always liked watching us play Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2019. Always commentating, talking about his time in the war. It was really interesting, just watching him ramble on. He even got into the game. I mean, he's never played it, but he always liked to talk about it and ask him what was going on and what we were doing inside of it. At first we didn't really want to play around him, thinking it was gonna upset him, seeing as that he's actually been to war. But he didn't care. Or at least that's what he told us eventually. Until one day, I think it was last year, I don't know when it was, but he always, when we talked about Krampus and how it was just a silly bunch of nonsense, I remember he came up the doors, furious, yelling that Krampus was real, and that he took his brother. Of course, our parents never believed him, just saying that it was all just an imagination, and his mind goes adrift nowadays. So he starts talking about it with us. He even told us to make sure we behaved ourselves because he didn't want to see what happened. We even tried asking him if he's ever seen Krampus. He nodded. When we tried to get him to describe Krampus, he said that Krampus apparently looked like a goat man. It was like a goat, talking goat man who could actually stand on his hind legs as if he was a human. And he always carried a big burlap sack. And he always dressed up like Santa. Of course, none of us actually believed it. I mean, surely you don't go around and see in the news missing kids, boat man running around, kidnapping children and doing God knows God knows what to them. But the more I think about it, the more it's creepy it gets. But even creepier still. Well, there was a missing kids case recently. I don't know if you've seen it. It was for a little girl named Emily Jilson. I'll tell you, he got real upset when he seen that. Or at least heard of it. Even his dog got a little scared at his outrage of fear. He always went around and talked about how it was always, it was probably Krampus, and he's out on the hunt. Of course, we tried asking him how he found it. He did tell us a story about how it took his brother. Him and his brother were sleeping, as you do when you're waiting for the big man himself to come over. But instead, it was he says that all he remembers was screaming, his brother screaming, and it sounded like a dry laugh. He ran over to this room. He saw and that's where he saw Krampus, shoving him into a sack. He described it in full detail. He even talked about how apparently Krampus saw him and told him to go back to sleep, and Santa would be there shortly. Naturally, as I think all of us would do when we see our brothers getting stuck into things, he started calling for his mother. Krampus grabbed him, forcefully shoved his clawed hand, which apparently had razor-sharp claws, which he's surprised didn't cut him. He raised a finger to his lips and did a shh thing. He said that he was punishing the naughty kids, and it was his job, and he wasn't taking him since he was a good child and he was a good boy. Apparently he had asked him if he was gonna give him back. So then when he asked that, Krampus just looked at him as if he just said the stupidest thing in the world. He chuckled a little to himself and just walked off. Of course, naturally, the next day, police were everywhere looking for him, desperately trying to attempt to find where he was. Well, that was scary. But that's not what this story's about. It's about what happened recently. And by recently, I mean like a week ago. On Christmas night, 2021. On that night, we were all asleep. I heard what sounded like Santa coming through. But it sounded heavier. I heard whistling. Now, it's worth noting in mind that I already knew that Santa wasn't real. So I didn't think it was Santa. And I think my brother heard it too, because I know the next thing we knew, we were both looking downstairs. And we heard shuffling downstairs, and naturally I was recently, at that time me and my brother were getting airsoft, so we got our airsoft guns ready to chase out whatever intruder was down there causing trouble. We saw a silhouette of a goat. We really ran upstairs and just slept under the covers after we were sleeping. That's when we heard whistling. Of course, we would call our parents or the police, but our parents were on vacation, a honeymoon. Well, at least it was a honeymoon until Granny called, asking them to spend the night with her because her husband, our grandfather, died a week ago then. So we weren't able, so she had no one to spend time with. She especially entrusted us to behave ourselves while we were, out. I was definitely freaked out. I mean, if you heard footsteps in the night and you saw a silhouette of a goat figure and it's just you and your brother, I'm pretty sure you would probably freak out too. Sure, we even grabbed our airsoft guns and didn't even bother. I guess if horror movies taught me anything, it's to not go around investigating. Well, even though it seemed a little too late for that, but we managed to make it either way. We heard more clonks. Footsteps coming to my brother's room. A little humming. It's like something like a hum in a goat's bay. I heard it right outside my door, but it went past mine to my brother's. Of course, I was worried about him. So I grabbed my gun, my airsoft. Right when I did, I heard gunfire. Airsoft gun. Airsoft AR gunfire. Like he was shooting at something. Followed by a scream. I immediately grabbed my gun and rushed in. Kicking the door open FBI style. Like that meme, FBI open up. I didn't see anything. There wasn't anything. Whatever just happened, they were just gone, and my brother was gone. Of course, naturally, I was freaked out. I immediately went for our phone to call the police, but lines were dead. I went downstairs and looked for any sort of thing that would tell me where the fuck my brother went, because my brother did not just disappear like that. All I could find was a piece of paper underneath a Christmas tree with a present. I opened up the present first. It was nothing inside. It was just empty. Like it was just naturally nothing. So we were confused. At least I was, because I'm not assuming as I'm the only one there. It's worth noting that the homeless man was, well, he left our place because he recently got a place. He had his own place. Though I do kind of wish now that he was with us. Speaking of which, he did come that morning. I showed him the note, which, well, it was a bunch of gibberish. I mean, it looked like a completely different language. I didn't even make it out what even it was. He looked at it and stared at it a couple times. He tried to calm me down and try to keep me calm. He said that it was German. I asked him what it was saying. It said, "Good boys get rewarded by Santa. Bad boys, good children, get rewarded by Santa. Bad children get rewarded by me. Consider yourself lucky that you've been a good boy this Christmas. But don't forget that I can still come for you next year. This is a joke, isn't it? Some fucked up joke that's not true and surely cannot fucking happen." But there was a look on his face. The look on his face told me that it was not a joke. So, did Krampus really take my fucking brother? I asked him. He nodded his head in a yes. "I'm sorry, my boy. I think he did." "Isn't there a way to get him back?" He shook his head. "No. The only way to get him back is if Krampus decides he's learned his lesson, which almost never happens. It's said only a 1% can actually get it to work." Then his eyes lit up. I asked him why his eyes were lighting up. "Tonight's Christmas, my boy." But he continued by saying that apparently he continued to talk about how he actually got his brother back, but it was by a rare chance, and said that it will only happen every 100 years. He explained that the only way to get someone back, there was some prerequisites or requirements, if you will. He said if I was going to get my brother back, I was going to have to write a note to Santa asking for nothing but my brother back. And he said even then it was not a personal guarantee, but it said that if he was truly sorry for his actions, and if Krampus decided it was good, he would make a Christmas wish come true. He said that Christmas, that if it was true, that there was a chance that Santa would actually get Krampus to give him back. I asked him what were the odds, and he said it was like a 30 to 50% chance, depending on, well, the child and what they did. I got done making a note, and he shook his head and said no. Apparently, I have to actually catch Santa in the hat. I have to actually see Santa with my own eyes and tell him and ask him and explain I want my brother back. That's how he got his brother back. But he says that it's not guaranteed, but Santa said he'll try. So that night, when I went underneath my bed and went to drift to sleep, I wanted to bring up some bells or something, anything that would alert me to his presence. But he said that Santa knows whose children are taken by Krampus. And I couldn't do that. So I couldn't stay up all night either. It was a very difficult task. I had to actually get up and have very good timing. I asked him for any tips and pointers. He said that there's only one thing I could do, that I could try doing. He said I should try that during the middle of the night, when I think he's nearby, I should try to go and get myself a glass of water. But sneak downstairs, and be very careful not to make any noise or anything that would alert them. Apparently, if I did this right, he would naturally ask me why I was up, and I was to explain to him that I wanted my brother back, that my brother was taken by Krampus and I wanted him back. And he says that apparently, based on if you were a good or bad boy, your chances were very good. I decided to hell with it. I mean, I wanted a chance to get him back. And that's what I did. Sure enough, at around 1:30 a.m. in the morning, I heard the footsteps downstairs. Human footsteps, of course. I snuck downstairs with a glass of water in my hand. I came up behind him. He smelled like cookies. I even left out a plate of cookies and milk, just to be extra nice. Santa? I asked, a bit scared. He turned around. He didn't even seem phased at all that I was there. It's like he knew I was there. I immediately panicked and started talking. Your brother got taken by Krampus. I nodded. He nodded too. Answer a question. If you answer truthfully, you will get your brother back in the morning. But do be forewarned, I can only do this every 100 years. So you better be on your best behavior. And Krampus may most likely be watching you more. I didn't care, so I told him I didn't care, and I just wanted my fucking brother back. He asked me the question. He asked if I was naughty or nice this year. I stopped and thought. Of course, naturally, you would probably say nice to get on his good side. But I've actually been quite toxic over the years, especially with people yelling at me online and me telling them, getting back at them. I know he wanted the truth, so I said, well, I've been good, but I've also had my bad moments. He just stared at me more. Then, finally, he nodded. Thank you for being truthful, child. Most children like you would have lied. But because you were honest, I'm going to give you one wish. I immediately told him, Santa, the only thing I want for Christmas this year is my brother to be back from Krampus. I want my brother back. I will try, child. You will see him in your bed. You will see him in your bed the next morning. But do be fair warned. Krampus likes to watch the truth. He will have his eye on you. So do be careful this Christmas season. I nodded my head. Very well. Go back to bed. Watch. He will be back in your bed. In his bed. Merry Christmas, Jordan. I went upstairs did as I instructed. I went upstairs and went to bed. I dreamt about anime girls since, well, I'm kind of a weeb. Christmas morning came and I woke up. When I finally woke up, I immediately rushed over to my brother. And there he was. My God. He was back. In his bed, sound asleep. I woke him up. Finally happy to see that he was fine, alive and well. When I told him everything, he looked confused. He asked me what the hell I was talking about. Why was I talking about Krampus? That's when I remembered another thing from Santa. He explained that there would be no memory. Even though he had no memory, I just played it off as a joke. After all, I guess it was just because I was too happy. Sure enough, we went downstairs and there was a bunch of gifts. Mainly chocolate, mostly. But in my stocking was a letter. We both read it out loud at the same time. Dear Aaron and Jordan, I'm happy to say that your Christmas wish has been granted. However, I must warn you, I will not be able to get him back. I will not be able to perform this action again for another 100 years. And also, for the rest of December, I highly advise you watch your backs. Mainly you, Jordan. Krampus is a trickster. And in his stocking, there was an elf on the shelf. Put on Mr. Elf on the shelf. He will protect you. But still, watch your backs. Love, with Merry Christmas, Santa Claus. I got my brother back. But there was another missing persons case. Then I turned off the TV, not even knowing what the child is. They say it was abducted. I think I know what happened to him. Apparently he was abducted at 2:30. I know what that meant. He tried to do this thing with Krampus. An hour after I got Krampus, he tried to call Krampus. Not Krampus, Santa. But because my... So it looks like I got my brother. But now in exchange, someone else lost their brother. Apparently, and it's even getting even worse when he turned it back on. Aaron did. He said apparently the parents, they were so distraught they committed suicide. Oh my God. What have I done? I didn't know. And apparently, it was both by a knife. But then they said that they thought it was a suicide, but it turned out to be murder. And when they showed the knife on the screen, it was the same knife I have in my room. The same combat knife with the same dragon camo on it, if you will. That's when I heard the police knock on my door. Loudly. But I thought it was the police, but it was actually a masked man. At first I thought he was a murderer, but he wasn't. He said that he was one of Krampus's helpers. He said he wanted to wish me a Merry Christmas. Then he grabbed my hand and splattered some blood on it. Of course, I didn't know it was blood at first, but the police showed up shortly after. They took me in, and they saw the blood on my hands. They did DNA tracks. They traced the DNA to 2 couples. Well, I should say 1 couple. It was the same person that was murdered. They brought me into the police station and started demanding I tell them where the child was that was kidnapped. I didn't know anything. I don't know why they were even yelling at me. I didn't even steal or kill or anything. So now I sit here, waiting for court. My parents found out and are giving me the best possible lawyer. But there's a little note when I woke up on the day of the trial. There was a little note. You stole from... It was signed in cursive. It took me a while to read it, but when I did, it finally said, in English, "You stole from me, kid. You took my prized possession, your brother." And I knew he was talking about my brother. So you know what? I always get my revenge. Merry Christmas. And let's see Santa get you out of that one. Get you out of this one. Krampus. What do you know? Looks like I get my brother back, but in exchange, my freedom. And there's a missing child out there with 2 murdered parents. Well, I guess I got the Christmas miracle I wanted. I just wish it came. I just wish I knew. So please, before whatever happens to me, here's a warning. If you ever make a deal with Santa with Christmas, on Christmas Eve, if you manage to get your brother or family member back from Krampus, be forewarned. I think Krampus might be a bit of a demon, because he'll always get his revenge. He'll make you pay for taking his prey, for taking his little toy. And trust me, learn from this experience. He'll make you pay good. Real good. Well, they're calling me up to the court now. I guess I should say Merry late Christmas. I hope you have a good year. I know I don't know if I will, but from the sounds of it, this ain't gonna be a good year for me. But who knows? Maybe another Christmas miracle will happen and I'll go free. But with Krampus pulling the strings, I don't think that's gonna happen. So please, take good care of yourself. And don't ever ask Santa to get Krampus to bring one of your flaming loved ones back, no matter how much you miss them. Unless, of course, you're willing to pay the ultimate price. Jordan McMyerson, you are hereby decreed with multiple accounts of murder. How do you plead? Not guilty. The defendant has been charged. I hereby sentence you to 3 years in prison along with community service. Dismissed.